Hello guys, welcome to another episode of doing shit to stuff we shouldn't actually do to shit because it's bad and it'll probably will never work again. But we're going to do it anyway. So, here in front of me I have a injector from a Renault Megane. It's a 1.5 DCI engine. Common fault on them things, injectors prone to destroying themselves, not working at all, and running really bad. They say not to turn them upside down, keep them lubricated, all that kind of stuff during transportation. Don't even take them out, otherwise they'll break. They are pretty poor. So in this case, obviously, it is kind of partially working. There's nothing mechanically wrong with this. It's the actual solenoid that's gone funny on this. So we're just going to use this in this example. So what we're going to be doing is we're just going to tear it down, see what's inside it, and can have a play around and see what things do. So what we're going to do is on the end of here, on the end of just on this little tip here, you can see there's a little hexagonal shaped like a nut. We're just going to get some adjustable spanners on there. I've got two because I haven't got a vise. We're just going to twist that end off, and or the cap. Just got to twist that off, and just pull it to pieces. So I'm not sure if you can actually see that, but the cap is actually off. So just going to pull this bit off here. Okay, so you can see there's a spring here. I can't get it off. Oh dear. Okay, so spring. We have this piece here, which I'll be able to take to pieces even more in a minute. That piece here, which has like a little hole in it. Well, it's like a semi-half hole sort of thing. It's only drilled halfway through, with another hole inside it, which goes through at an angle to the hole at the tip just over there. Can't really see it too well because my camera's not very good. Cap empty. Keep that seam clean right at the bottom there. See the little ring inside? That's the bottom, that's the tip. Just need to keep that clean when you put it back together. We have another spring here. The nozzle with tiny holes in it, which can be seen. They are really small though. And the needle. The needle is, judging by the looks of that, pretty alright. It's a bit scored where it's been rubbing against the inside of the nozzle. There's nothing in there. Can't really see too much down there, but there's nothing in it. It's wet because it's got diesel all over it. But yeah. So I'll just put these parts in order. So we've got the nozzle. Oops. Needle. Spring. A piston, I think it's called. I'm not quite sure what that bit's called. I can't quite remember. Another spring. And then we have the case, which has got the solenoid in it. I'll just pop that out, bear with me. There we go. Oh, and cap. The cap goes here. So yes, the solenoid, or electromagnet, whichever one you want to call it, is here. That goes inside this. Basically what is a case. There's actually nothing in this at all now. All it is just a case that flows fuel through that hole in the center right there. This middle one, that middle hole there. Fuel goes through that piece down to past the spring. The spring sits inside that little. There's a circle and then a hole in the middle of this solenoid electromagnet where the spring sits inside, which pushes against this circle here. Now this circle in the middle has holes in it, tiny holes. You can't really see it. I'll pull it out. No, can't see. No, okay. But that's actually the piston. Hold on, let me just get that out. Okay, so I managed to grab it out. There it is, tiny little thing. Just see the holes on this. Really bad camera. Hold on. Still not working. You can just see the holes on this. No, it's not that long. It's quite small. But yeah, that goes inside this little thing here, this little case sort of thing, and it moves up and down because it sits behind the electromagnet, and it sits almost this there like that, and this little piston moves up and down, and as it moves up and down it lets fuel through through there. And then the fuel goes through this piece here, which I would assume generates, I don't know, I would have thought some pressure or like a return feed. And then there's this little spring here which sits inside that bit just there like so. Can't really see it too well, but it's in there. And the needle sits on that spring, and one would assume that when this needle is in this nozzle here, judging by the looks of that, fuel goes in, return. Okay. I would have thought that when there's enough fuel pressure, it would have pushed this up, the needle. But there's score marks around the sides of it. It looks to me as though the fuel, does that? Yeah. Goes through that. There's a hole in this tiny little, there, just right at the tip. I would assume that the fuel is forced down here. When there's enough fuel, the pressure overwhelms the spring of the needle, and the needle moves out of the way, blasting the fuel through those tiny little holes, and then obviously into the piston, or cylinder, should I say. I'm assuming that's how it works. I could be wrong. Let's get that out of there. Inside, it's almost like this silver piece around here is like a cap, because inside there it's hollow, obviously, but it's like slightly wider inside. Let me show you. I'll draw a picture. Okay, it does look like something else. It's obviously not. It's just a circle with a tip, a long rod and a tip with holes in it. Yeah, there's 5 holes on this nozzle. On the end of here, there's there's 5 holes. So as I was saying, it looks like inside the needle sits through here. Oh, needle. Oh, one-handed drawing, terrible, absolutely terrible. So the needle goes through here, has this little tip on the end. Okay, so the needle is just like, looks like it sits in this little gap which is connected to the end of the needle. Not the end of the needle, the nozzle sits in that little, like a honed hole gap sort of thing, and then the fuel, that little fuel hole, which would be, say for example it's here, would sort of do this. Now I could be wrong, that might be return, it might be fuel in, I'm not sure, but I would assume it's fuel in, because there would be a return on something like this, where there's, if it overfuels, there's an incredibly tiny hole, which you cannot see on this camera. There's an incredibly tiny hole just underneath that big one in the center, over here. Just underneath it is a really small hole. I think that would have been the return. So I think this is like a pressure fed needle. So when the pressure overcomes the spring tension, the needle would just remove itself out of the way, and fuel should just shoot straight through. So I think that's what that would be. So in here, this little here, that would be like a reservoir of fuel. So I think that's how that would work. So these are the parts in order. Well, no, they were in order. Now they're really not. This was a reasonably good injector. I do have another injector right here, so we can compare the two. What happens is with this injector, the one that I've taken to pieces, on acceleration it knocks really loud, so it could be sticking. When it's on idle, it can hear it buzzing every now and then. It's like a squeak or weep noise. Sounds a bit like a mouse trying to run away from something. So I've got my multimeter here, this little bodge job of a multimeter. Let me just turn that to ohms. I'm not quite sure what the ohm reading is supposed to be, but I'm just going to switch that to, what's that, 2000. Okay, so we're just going to, okay, no, 20k. We'll stick it on 20k. Alright, so I'm just going to check these. So this one, this is the good one, obviously. Not a proper test because okay, what we're saying, 0. Ooh, that's good, isn't it? Bloody hell. Alright, okay. Hold on, let me just get some proper numbers. Okay, so I ended up having to turn it to 200 ohms on the multimeter. It turns out it was 0.04. No, sorry, 0.4 ohms on that one. That was the good one. I'm just going to test this one now. Let's see what this one says. Hold on. Okay, so that one, this one here, that one was around about 0.6, 0.5. Kept flicking between the two. I reckon if I stayed on it a little bit longer, because it's not exactly a great multimeter, it may have dropped down to 0.4, but it's kind of steadied on 0.5, but it was up on the 0.6 area, so I reckon maybe that's probably why it was bad. Maybe because there's something wrong with it inside. Not going to get into too much, actually. Should we just break that end off? Let's see what's inside it. Why not? It's already knackered anyway, isn't it? Shall we get in it? Yeah, let's get in it. Okay, so we have here what looks like this looks to me like it would be the actual magnet bit, that generates the actual electromagnetism. This bit looks like an amplifier to me, because on this part here, on the actual electromagnet bit, there's two black dots. You can see them just on the camera there. That they have copper wires that go into it. So I'm assuming, obviously, there's a coil in there, and that little center is like the core which generates the magnetism. That to me looks like the some sort of like an amplifier, or a coil which amplifies the current going in, so it can generate more of a magnetic pull. I could be wrong. Maybe that's a coil in there, and then there's more coil windings in there, just to make it a strong magnet. Maybe, or maybe this bit's like just amplifies it, and that's just a coil to magnetize. But I can't really get in this because it's quite hard plastic, and I don't really have the tools here at the moment to get into it. But this looks like it's a pressed cap, so I might just pull that bit to pieces too. Bear with me. Okay, so it turns out I cannot get in it. It is pressed in there pretty well, and I don't really have any tools that can just pull that to pieces. But judging by the looks of that, I would assume that is like an electromagnet there, with just a coil around it, which is that black ring, obviously magnetizing the this little, like a piston here. So I'm just going to put this back together real quick. Obviously it's not going to work, but I'm just going to put it back together anyway. So we have our nozzle, with which the needle sits into. Okay, and then it's better if I do it in the case. That bit goes in here first. I'm just going to put the spring on there as well, on top of the needle. You can see that. And then, oh dear, this piece, which goes on this way, that hole, that tiny hole at the top, goes in that way, there. Then we have this piece here, which, that piece with the slightly cut out bit there at the top, the big main piece, goes that way around. Are we sure? It does. Oh, why does it go that way? Oh, right, okay, I see. So that way. This little piston-y thing with the holes in it. Oh, you can see the holes now. Well, you could. You can't now. It goes in that way. Oh dear. Oh, what we're gonna do? Oh, we broke it. Okay, so I managed to get it back together, but this time without it falling to pieces. So that went in there like that, and then we have this piece, which this little electromagnet went in. And you have to make sure these go the right way around. If you ever take one of these pieces, things to bits. On here, on the end of this electromagnet piece, there's a little like what looks like a QR code sort of thing. It's basically a square with lots of other squares inside the square. This is square with lots of squares, and that faces, which way is it? This one. That little QR sort of code faces faces, I think it faces away from this piece, away from the fuel in hole where the holes are, basically the other way from the opposite direction from the holes. You'll see that there is a little notch on the end of these little electrodes. There's a little notch. You can't really see it too well on here, but there's a notch on one side. The notch faces inward, in toward the back of the injector, because if you have the notch facing forward, you can't exactly connect the connectors up very well. So the notch faces in, which is that way, so it faces basically like that, but you can't really see on this camera because it's crap. So I'm going to put this in here, but yes, I'm just going to put it in because it doesn't really matter anymore. It's knackered. But I did that for you guys. I did that genuinely for you guys. So it doesn't actually go in like that. That's wrong. If you do it like that, if you take one of these injectors to pieces and you put it together like that, you're an idiot. So yeah, I hope this was formal, or gave you an insight as to what's inside one of these little injectors, these dodgy injectors that never seem to work. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed that, and if you have any more suggestions as to what else I can just tear to pieces, we can have a look at what's inside them. Just drop some comments below, and I hope you did enjoy watching this shocking video. So yeah, thanks for watching.